Hello friends, in our previous discussion we talked about the various skill sets one must have to produce effective multimedia, the various hardware and software requirements, and also talked about the primary stages of multimedia. In today's lecture we shall be talking about the scope of multimedia project, scheduling the phases of the project and the costing factors. Before you begin a multimedia project, you must first develop a sense of scope and content, letting the project take shape in your head as you think through the various methods available to get your message across to your viewers. Then you must develop an organized outline and a plan that is rational in terms of the skills, time, budget, tools and resources. Proper project planning is as important as planning the layout and content. Your plans should be in place before you start to render graphics, sounds and other components, and you should refer to them throughout the project's execution. The process of making multimedia. Plan for the entire process, beginning with your first idea and ending with completion and delivery of a finished product. The stepwise process of making multimedia is illustrated in figure here. Use this chart to help you get control over the production of new website or DVD videos. Note the feedback loops for revision based upon testing and experiment. It is, of course, easiest to plan a project using the experience you have gathered in similar past projects. But this format of planning always helps. The important thing to keep in mind when you are toying with an idea is balance. As you think through your idea, you must continually weigh your purpose or goal against the feasibility and cost of production and delivery. Use whiteboard, note paper and scratch pads as you flesh out your idea, or use an outlining program on your computer. Start with broad brush strokes and then think through each constituent multimedia element. Ultimately, you will generate a plan of action that will become your roadmap for production. Here we shall discuss some of the major questions one must answer before starting the project. What is the essence of the project? What is your purpose and message? What is your target audience? What do they already know about the subject? Will they understand industry terms? What multimedia elements will best deliver your message? Do you already have content material with which you can leverage your project, such as old videotapes or video files, music, documents, photographs, advertisements, marketing packages and other artwork? What hardware is available for development of your project? Is it enough? How much storage space do you have? How much do you need? What multimedia software is available to you? Can you do it alone? Who can help you? How much time do you have? How much money do you have? How will you distribute the final project? The time spent defining your project in this way, that is reality testing it against technology and your abilities, might be your most valuable investment. At any of these points, you can decide to go forward or bail out. Idea management software. Software such as Dot Project, Kforge, outlining programs and spreadsheets such as Excel can be useful for arranging your ideas, work items, employee resources and costing of the multimedia project. Project management tools provide the added benefit of built-in analysis to help you stay within your schedule and budget during the rendering of the project itself. Project management software typically provides critical path method scheduling functions to calculate the total duration of a project based upon each identified task, earmarking tasks that are critical and that if lengthened when result in a delay in project completion. Program evaluation review techniques or PERT charts provide graphic representation of task showing prerequisites and the task that must be completed before others can commence. Gantt charts depict all the tasks along a timeline. While not as high-tech as idea management software, any writing surface can serve as a storehouse for ideas. If you decide that your idea has merit, take it to the next step. Define your project goals in greater detail and spell out what it will take in terms of skills, content, and money to meet these goals. If you envision a commercial product, sketch out how you will sell it. Work up a prototype of the project on paper with an explanation of how it will work. All of these steps help you organize your idea and test it against the real world. Prototype development. Once you have decided that a project is worth doing, you should develop a working prototype. This is the point at which you begin serious work at the computer. Your messages and storylines will take shape as you explore ways of presenting them. For the prototype, sometimes called a proof of the concept or feasibility study, you might select only a small portion of a large project and get that part working as it would in the final product. Indeed, after trying many different approaches in the course of prototyping, you may end up with more than one viable candidate for the final product. A multimedia developer should always test his prototype along the following fronts. The first is technology. Will the project work on your proposed delivery platform or platforms? Cost. Can you do this project within the budget constraints? Market. Can you sell it, or will it be properly used if it is an in-house project? And human interface. Is it intuitive and easy to use? At this point, you may wish to arrange a focus group where you can watch potential end users experiment with your prototype and analyze their reactions. The purpose of any prototype is to test the initial implementation of your idea and improve on it based upon test results. So you should never feel committed or bound to any one option, and you should be ready and willing to change things. Persuade the client to spend a small amount of money and effort upfront to let you build a skeletal version of the project, including some artwork, interactive navigation, and performance checks. Indeed, there may be some very specific technology issues that need thorough examination and proof before you can provide a realistic estimate of the work and cost required. The focused experience of this proof will allow both you and the client to assess the project's goal and the means to achieve them. Alpha and beta development. As you go forward, you should continually define the tasks ahead. With an alpha stage prototype in hand and a commitment to proceed, the investment of effort will increase and at the same time become more focused. More people may become involved as you begin to flesh out the project as a whole. By the time your idea reaches the beta stage of development, you will have committed serious time, energy, and money, and it is likely too late to bail out. You have gone past the point of no return and should see it through. But by now you have a great project that is looking very great. Most of the features are working and you are distributing it to a wider arena of testers. In fact, you are on the downhill slope now, and your concern should be simply successful steering the project to its well-defined goal. Scheduling. Once you have worked up a plan that encompasses the phases, tasks, and work items that will be required to complete your project, you need to lay out these elements along a timeline. If you are working for a client, these are work products that are delivered to the client for approval. To create this schedule, you must estimate the total time required for each task and then allocate this time among the number of persons who will be asynchronously working on the project as shown in the example here. Again, the notion of balance is important. If you can distribute the required hours to perform a task among several workers, completion should take proportionately less time. Scheduling can be difficult for multimedia projects because making of multimedia is artistic trial and error. A recorded sound will need to be edited and perhaps altered many times. Animations need to be run again and again and adjusted so that they are smooth and properly placed. A QuickTime or MPEG movie may require many hours of editing and tweaking before it works in sync with other screen activities. Scheduling multimedia projects is also difficult because the technology of computer hardware and software is constantly changing. The general rule of thumb when working with computers and new technology under a deadline is that everything will take longer to do than planned. In scheduling for a project that is to be rendered for a client, remember that the client will need to approve or sign off on your work at various stages. This approval process can wreak havoc with your schedule since it takes time and depends upon factors beyond your control. If the client changes his or her mind later in the process, then any revision of the previously approved materials would require a change order, meaning that the client agrees to pay the additional costs for making the changes rather than you having to do away with your profit margins. Estimating. In producing and manufacturing industries, it is a relatively simple matter to estimate costs and effort. To make chocolate cookies, for example, you need ingredients such as flour and sugar and equipment such as mixers, ovens, and packaging machines. Once the process is running smoothly, you can turn out hundreds of cookies, each tasting the same and each made of the same stuff. You then control your costs by fine-tuning known expenses like negotiating deals on flour and sugar in quantity, installing more efficient ovens, and hiring personnel at more competitive wages. In contrast, making multimedia is not a repetitive manufacturing process. Rather, it is by nature a continuous research and development effort characterized by creative trial and error. Each new project is somewhat different from the last, and each may require application of many different tools and solutions. In the area of professional services, let's consider some typical costs in the advertising community. Production of a storyboard for a 30-second commercial costs about 50,000 rupees. Editing time in a professional video studio runs upward of 500 rupees per hour. A self-guided tour distributed with a software product, for example, may cost 15,000 rupees for one client and 1.5 lakh for another, depending upon the tour's length and polish. A short original music clip may cost 50 rupees or 500 rupees based on the talent used and the nature of the music. A graphical menu screen might take 2 or 20 hours to develop, depending upon its complexity and the talent applied. Without available going rates for segments of work or entire projects, you must estimate the cost of your multimedia project by analyzing the tasks that it comprises and the people who build it. Be sure you include the hidden costs of administration and management. It takes time to speak with clients on the telephone, to write progress reports, and to mail invoices. In addition, there may be many people in your workforce who represent specialized skills, for example, a graphic artist, musician, instructional designer, and writer. In this case, you will need to include a little extra buffer of time and expense in your estimate to pay for these artists' participation in project meetings and creative sessions. Also remember to include a line item in your budget for contingencies as a little extra padding to cover the inevitable expected costs. Adding 10% to 15% of the total cost is a typical rule of thumb for contingency amount. As a general rule, there are three elements that can vary in project estimates: time, money, and people. As shown here, if you decrease any one of these elements, you will generally need to increase one or both of the others. For example, if you have very little time to do a project, it will cost more money in overtime and it may take more people. If you have a good number of people, the project should take less time. By increasing the money spent, you can actually decrease the number of people required by purchasing efficient but costly experts. This may also reduce the time required. Do your best to estimate the amount of time it will take to perform each task in your plan. Multiply this estimate by your hourly billing rate, sum the total costs for each task, and you now have an estimate of the project's total time and cost. Though this simple formula is easy, what is not so easy is diligently remaining within the budgeted time and money for each task. For this, you need good tracking and management oversight. Payment schedule. Payments are often divided into thirds. One third at the time of signing of the contract, one third as work products are delivered and approved during the alpha and beta development phases, and one third upon final approval of the completed production. RPFs and bid proposals. Request for proposal or RPF are typically detailed documents from large corporations that are outsourcing their multimedia development work. Such a document provides background information, scope of work, and information about the bidding process. You have many options for designing the look and feel of your proposal. And though we are often warned to avoid judging a book by its cover, the reality is that it takes about 2 seconds for executives to assess the quality of the document they are holding. Sometimes they decide before even touching it. Size up the people who will read your proposal and find out their expectations. Tailor your proposal to these expectations. If your client judges from the cover of your proposal that the document inside is amateurish rather than professional, you are already fighting an uphill battle. There are two strategies for avoiding this negative first impression. The first step is to develop your own special style for a proposal cover, including custom fonts, cover art, illustrations, paragraph styles, and a clean binding. Do your proposal first class. Second, make the entire package plain and simple, yet businesslike. The plain part of the approach means not fussing with too many fonts and type styles. This austerity may be particularly successful for proposals to government agencies where 12-point Times New Roman or 12-point Courier may not just be a de facto standard but a required document format. If you must submit hard copy documents in addition to PDF or doc files, a stapled stack of papers is adequate. Don't try to dress up your plain presentation with cheap plastic covers. Keep it lean and mean. Busy executives want to anticipate a document and grasp its content in short order. A table of contents or index is a straightforward way to present the elements of your proposal in condensed overview. In some situations, you may also wish to include an executive summary. The summary should be on the cover page or immediately following. In an electronic submission, you can hot link to the table of contents and to important sections. In many proposals, it is useful to describe in some detail the reason the project is being put forward. This needs analysis, and description is particularly common in proposals that must move through a company's executive hierarchy in search of approval and funding. And finally, something related to the budget. So friends, that's it about making appealing multimedia presentations, scheduling, the phases of project and the costing factors. I hope these tips in the lecture will help you in making good multimedia. See you in the next lecture on other intricacies related with multimedia production. Thank you very much.